Welcome back to Xbox Corner. My name is Alex and today I'm here with Luke and we're taking a look at our top 10 Game Pass titles of 2021 with one stipulation. They must be day one releases, meaning the day they go up for purchase is the day they hit Game Pass as well. It was a great year as well for Xbox, 51 day one Game Pass titles alone, so here's our favourite 10, though I'll also say they're not in any particular order. With that then, hit subscribe for weekly deals, reviews, Game Pass breakdowns and graphical comparisons, and let's get started.
So the first game on today's list is The Medium, and this one released way back in January, and not only was it one of the first day one releases of the year, it was also the first Series X console exclusive, and it really stood out as a next-gen title thanks to its dual reality gameplay mechanic, which saw you exploring two versions of the game world at the same time. Part psychological horror, part puzzle mystery, The Medium had you playing as a medium called Marianne, who after receiving a mysterious phone call from someone claiming to know the origin of her powers, travels to an abandoned hotel resort to meet the chap. Once there though, it isn't long before she discovers the remnants of a dark past laying in wait for her, and she must then use her powers to both solve the puzzles that she encounters and survive confrontations with a malevolent entity known as the Maw. There are some really interesting gameplay mechanics in this one though, as you simultaneously interact with both the real and the spirit world, and in some ways The Medium felt like a bit of a throwback to the classic Resident Evil and Silent Hill games with its fixed camera angles, puzzles and a monstrous pursuer, but its unique gameplay mechanics and fantastic visuals also made it feel like a true next-gen gaming experience, and if you haven't yet had a chance to play this one, then I highly recommend that you do.
The Artful Escape for me then, and this is for the platformer fans out there. As is typical with an Annapurna interactive release though, this is anything but your traditional experience with a big focus on narrative. Taking on the role of Francis Vendetti, you are a young man and guitar prodigy who is attempting to escape the legacy of his uncle. From here follows a psychedelic side-scrolling adventure to inspire and uncover your own stage persona. It features an all-star voice cast though, including Jason Schwartzman, Carl Weathers and Lena Headey to bring some real weight to its world and tale. And then while the gameplay is relatively simple and basic, it was a fantastic 4 hours where the sights of these different locations should just keep you absolutely locked in. On an audio and visual front as well, I'd consider it some of the best work of 2021. It released then back in September and it was one I jumped on personally immediately, and it comes highly recommended.
So August saw the release of the long-awaited sequel to the cult classic Psychonauts, with Psychonauts 2 once more dropping us into the surreal world of Raz, a newly graduated psychonaut who has the ability to enter and explore the minds of others. Now, following on from the rescue of head psychonaut Trumans and Otto, Raz and the gang return to Psychonauts HQ, only to find it has been infiltrated by a mole whose master plan aims to resurrect a murderous psychic villain, and so it once more falls to Raz to stop them. And as with previous titles, the game has you entering into the often twisted minds of its characters and battling the mental creatures that they produce using a variety of psychic abilities, some new and some returning from the first game. Now, Psychonauts 2 really shows how far things have come since 2005, and the next-gen hardware has really allowed Tim Schafer and co to bring the world to life, reaching new depths of surrealism with its environments, and really just nailing it with the platforming and gameplay in this one. There's also some great writing, offering plenty of laughs along the way, and if you're a fan of the weird and the wonderful, then Psychonauts 2 will no doubt be right up your alley.
Octopath Traveler then may have released on the Nintendo Switch back in 2018 and PC in 2019, but it didn't reach the Xbox console until March of this year, gaining access to today's list, where it simultaneously released to Game Pass. This was actually my second time with the game and I absolutely adore it. Here though, we're getting 8 separate characters with their own individual storylines and endings to face before some endgame content as well. If that wasn't a clue there, this is a big game, anywhere from 50 to 100 hours, dependent on how side quest hungry you are. While I'm not going to be breaking down the story of each character here, you'll be on an adventure through the land of Austera, a world created by 13 deities. You'll start then with a main character, and once you meet the others in this world, you have the option to start their chapters as well. I loved that freedom though to control what came next, and then visually it's stunning, presenting something that's absolutely retro, but still has, that 2021 feel. This one's a good option though when you're ready to invest in some epic sized story arcs, but it locked me in and I do not regret the time I spent with it.
Unpacking is our next game, and this one came as somewhat of a surprise hit, as you wouldn't think a game about moving homes and having to unpack boxes full of belongings would be all that enjoyable. Surprisingly though, the zen-like puzzle experience that Unpacking has to offer is a damn sight less stressful than its real life counterpart, and with every stacked book and perfectly placed plush toy, you learn a little bit more about a character that you never actually get to see, and a story that you never actually told. The gameplay in this one though is truly one of those where you can just zone out for a few hours. Its simplicity demands very little from the player besides perhaps finding a secret location to stash a diary or understanding that you shouldn't place a toaster in the bathtub, but it also manages to be surprisingly touching, as items that once seemed so important to the character get left behind and the simplicity of childhood is replaced by the necessity of adulthood. Now the game has some wonderful pixel art visuals which do a great job of replicating nostalgic items from the past, and the relaxing soundtrack only adds to the overall meditative gameplay experience. If there was one game that my brain could handle with a New Year's hangover, then it would be this, and if we ever do a list of top 10 chill out games on the channel, then Unpacking will definitely make the cut.
Undertale then is another one that hit other platforms some time back, and I'm talking nearly every platform: PC, Mac, PlayStation, Vita, the Nintendo Switch. Well, Xbox finally got their turn in May of 2021, and again, it was an instant drop on Game Pass, gaining access to today's list. A 2D, top-down kind of style RPG, it always gave me that old-school kind of Game Boy vibe with its visuals, but don't let that deceive you or question its quality. It's considered a cult classic with good reason. Set in the underworld though, this is a realm where monsters were banished and you'll be on an adventure through this world. And now I don't want to give anything away with this one. I went in blind. That is highly recommended just due to its sheer creativity. So I'm stealing a few words from the store page just to give you an idea of how strange this one gets. Date a skeleton, dance with a robot, cook with a fish woman, or destroy everyone where they stand. The future, it is yours to determine. What this all means though is you can play where you attack, or you can avoid conflict entirely. Thrown in then is a great sense of humour, and this is incredibly unique and held in high regard accordingly.
If there was any game set to showcase the awesome power of Microsoft's next-gen consoles in 2021, it was Microsoft Flight Simulator, and my god is it a beautiful looking game. Previously only available on PC, the game allows aspirant pilots to hop behind the yoke of any one of its 20 plus aircraft and then take to the skies, following real world flight paths back and forth between airports, plotting their own routes, or doing away with them altogether and just going on a sightseeing tour of the greatest landmarks the world has to offer. With a control scheme somewhat optimised for consoles, and I say somewhat as you can still turn on ultra realistic settings if you love pressing buttons, the game is now much more appealing to a casual audience, and maintaining control of your plane is now easier than ever, whether you're soaring over mountaintops or terracing your way through the skies above Disney's magical kingdom. Now, being totally honest here, I've never actually been into flight sims, but regardless of whether or not you're a fan of them, Microsoft Flight Sim is still a marvel of engineering genius, or in this case, development genius. With every inch of its planes painstakingly replicated and nearly every square kilometre of the world mapped out, including over 2 million cities and towns, 2 trillion individual trees and 37,000 real airports, it's hard not to be impressed with what has been achieved here. The only downside to downloading it on consoles is that it takes up nearly 100 gigabytes of your hard drive space, and that's just the base game without all of the optional add-ons, but in my mind that's a small price to pay to experience one of the most visually stunning games on the platform.
Halo Infinite then, and I'm not sure how much I need to say on this one. Multiplayer released in November before the single player campaign dropped in December. Let's talk issues though first. The leveling up in multiplayer, it was awful at launch. 50 XP per match rather than being skill based. That's now in the works after complaints. They also tidied it up somewhat by rewarding the first 6 games each day with a higher count of XP, though it still didn't quite get to that addictive itch I was looking for. Single player then, it's missing co-op support, something that is, for many, the heart of a Halo experience. Again though, that will be coming soon. That all said though, I've still been having a blast. I'm avoiding talking story, as many are no doubt catching up to this point, but it's decent enough. Fan favourites return with some surprising turns, but for me, my time, it's really all been about the multiplayer, and I know that's going to be the case for many. From large scale warfare to 4 vs 4, you can expect everything from team deathmatch to capture the flag to a mode where you need to hold onto a skull the longest. It just gets the Halo feel just right, floaty jumping, a fast pace and plenty of guns to experiment with the multiplayer then being free to play and utilising battle passes. I'm excited to see where it goes next and what additions will come down the line. Its timing as well was perfect. In the same month, Destiny 2 was removed from Game Pass, which for sure caused some upset with its core audience. That also, bad move when Halo is coming to town. Another good option to check out then, Quake, that remaster this year, that was also released to Game Pass, and it is absolute gold.
So the penultimate game on today's list is Forza Horizon 5, arguably the biggest day one release of 2021, but with the hype train in full motion and high expectations from Forza fans across the globe, could it deliver and expand on the precedent set by its predecessor? Well, for me and many other players it did, and I'm usually not into races, but I sunk a fair few hours into the game, and while admittedly its launch was plagued by connectivity issues, for the most part these appear to have been fixed. Now, the game takes many of the elements players loved about the previous title, such as hundreds of cars to buy and unlock, the also addictive wheel spins, and all of the classic challenges like danger jumps, speed traps and barn finds, but then enhances what was for the most part an entirely free roam experience, adding a new and engaging story mode, an event lab allowing players to create their own custom tracks and arcade events, and of course a next gen visual upgrade, which includes more diverse dynamic weather events and seasonal changes. The racing in the game is as solid as ever though, with categories catering to a number of different styles, be that street racing, off-road or cross-country. There are also seasonal challenges for players to complete to unlock an assortment of time-limited vehicles and goodies, and while F1 may be the king of the simulation races, Forza Horizon 5 is undoubtedly the best arcade-style racer on the platform.
So easily for me then, my number one for the year was Hades. It's another one that released elsewhere first, but it hit Game Pass the same day it hit Xbox to purchase, and this game is now for many considered one of the games of 2020, and for me on Xbox, games of 2021. A roguelike dungeon crawler experience from Supergiant Games. It won more than 50 Game of the Year awards, and it was well deserved. Story-wise, you're setting out though to escape the clutches of Hades and hell itself, and to do this, you'll be crawling location to location, mastering weapons, and tackling countless foes. There's a ton of boss moments in here as well that will absolutely test your ability. It excelled though in just so many areas, a creative set of weapons, each with their own unique, positives and negatives. A story where your relationship to Hades is explored, a soundtrack that's stunning and should be heard by everyone, and a cartoon-like visual style that is just simply striking. Many out there have invested well over 100 hours. It's just completely addictive, the option to upgrade between runs and expand on the story. And if there's one Game Pass title you play from the selection of 2021 Day 1 Game Pass releases, this has to be it. And that's our top 10 of 2021, but that is just a small sample of every great game that hit Game Pass this year. What were your favourites though? Let us know in the comments down below. Day one or not, it does not matter. With that then, hit subscribe, join us here on XboxCorner weekly for Game Pass breakdowns, deals, reviews and graphical comparisons, and we'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.